Hillary Clinton today took a big step towards a policy favored by her presidential primary rival, Bernie Sanders, announcing plans to eliminate college tuition at in-state public colleges and universities for families with annual incomes under $125,000, among other proposals. While Clinton stopped short of Sanders' call for tuition at public colleges and universities to be free for all students, the announcement moves the two candidates far closer on a major Sanders priority. And the Vermont senator today lauded Clinton's move.
I thank Secretary Clinton for introducing this proposal, which in my view, if implemented, will have a very profound impact on the future of our country.
With the Democratic National Convention less than 3 weeks away, Sanders has not yet endorsed Clinton, and the frustration on Capitol Hill seems to be mounting. Politico reports that Sanders was booed by House Democrats at one point during a closed-door meeting today, with frustrated Democrats pressing him during a tense question-and-answer session on whether he would ultimately endorse Clinton and help foster party unity. Meanwhile, NBC News has learned that in the wake of today's announcement, the Sanders and Clinton campaigns are in talks for a possible endorsement event as early as next Tuesday in New Hampshire. And I have the perfect person to ask about that. Joining me now is Vermont Senator and Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders. Senator, let me ask you about this closed-door meeting. Did you get booed?
I think there were a few people who were booing. I think most of the people were sympathetic. And what I say to those people who booed, you can boo me all you want. I am going to continue to fight to make sure that we transform this country. That's what our campaign was about. That's what 13 million voters wanted to see happen. And one of the things, as you've just mentioned, Chris, where there is widespread support all across this country, is to end the absurdity of hundreds of thousands of bright young people not being able to afford to go to college and millions of others leaving school deeply in debt. I worked on a proposal during the campaign which said that all of our people should be able to go to public colleges and universities tuition free. Secretary Clinton had a different approach, but a strong approach. Essentially what happened is there was a bringing together, a coming together of the two approaches, and I think we have something that will now revolutionize education in America. And that says that over a 4-year period, starting at 85,000, going up to 125,000, people under 125,000 will be able to send their kids to college or university, public college or university, tuition free. This is a pretty good step forward.
And I, on policy grounds, I agree with you. And it does seem to be sort of, it has come in the middle of sort of where, you know, universal or steeply means tested, as the secretary had recommended. But the broader question, I think, is this, right? I mean, there is a opposition to the death penalty in the Democratic Party platform, which is out of sync with the nominee, okay? The nominee supports it, the platform doesn't. There is a call for a $15 an hour minimum wage, although not a national federal law for that. There is now this college proposal from Hillary Clinton. Do you understand people looking at this and say, look, Hillary Clinton got more votes. At a certain point, there are going to be some policy differences between the two of you that she's not going to come around on, because if she did, then she would have run on them to begin with. At some point, you have won your substantive victories.
Well, let me just say this. I got in the race, obviously, to try to win, to become president. And we're going into Philadelphia, and Hillary Clinton has more votes than I do. She is the presumptive nominee, and that is just basically the fact. But what my job is to do everything that I can to address the major crises facing this country in terms of income and wealth inequality, the 40-year decline of the American middle class, the horrific crisis that we face in terms of climate change.
Right.
And I'm going to use all of the leverage that I have to try to make those changes. And I'm also on record and will do everything that I can, Chris, and I'm a pretty hard worker at these things, to make sure that Donald Trump does not become president of the United States of America, because that would be an unmitigated disaster, not only for our country, but for the world. So I'm going to do that. And we are now working with the Clinton campaign. We came together on higher education, and let me congratulate her. I think this is an extraordinarily powerful proposal that will mean so much to millions and millions of young people. We're working on some other ideas, and I think at the end of the day, there is going to be a coming together, and we're going to go forward together and not only defeat Trump, but defeat him badly.
So that's key. So you're not denying the report that there are talks about a possible endorsement?
That's correct.
Okay. Let me ask you this, because you and I have known each other for a long time. I've interviewed and covered you for a long time. My read on you is that you are doing this for the substantive reasons that you say you are. There are people who feel that it isn't. There's a quote today, and it's a blind quote, but I'd like you to respond. It was frustrating about the meeting because he's squandering the movement he built with self-obsession that was totally on display. And this is something, you know, people feel that, is this about ego? Is this about you, Bernie Sanders, not wanting to let go?
Chris, what percentage of Democratic members of the House of Representatives supported me? Do you know?
A tiny percentage, maybe 2 or 3.
That's right. So I walked into a room where 95% of the people supported Hillary Clinton. People who supported me in the room, by the way, were very kind and generous, as were many others. You know, I don't know how to tell you this, Chris. Don't believe everything you read in the papers. All right? Not necessarily accurate. The idea that there was massive hostility is just not true. All right, but there are some people who look at
politics. Yeah, there are people who are, right.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that I agree with you. I don't believe everything you read in the paper. But what it is clear is that there are some people who are frustrated, who think this is about your ego. And I just want you to respond to that.
Well, you know, I've been doing what I've been doing now for the last many, many years, for many decades, doing my best to take on the big money interests, to take on the greed of Wall Street. That's what I do. So for those people to say it's about my ego, well, I respectfully disagree. What it is about is that you got 47 million people in this country living in poverty. It's about the fact that we're the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all people as a right. It's about the fact that we have millions of workers trying to make it on $9, $10 an hour and they can't do it, which is why we have to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour.
Right.
So I think what sometimes gets disguised is political differences.
Right.
Some guy came up to me in the caucus, this guy's pro-TPP. Well, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure the TPP does not come to the floor of the House. And I'm sure that he was not all that happy about that. So sometimes personality becomes infused with political differences.
Senator Bernie Sanders, thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up, as Republicans drag their feet through endorsements of Donald Trump, a common trend of silent protest emerges. What that is after the break.